When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, "Today I shall meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." Marcus Aurelius. Imagine starting your day with that thought. Not a motivational quote, not a gratitude affirmation, but a raw, unfiltered reminder of reality. Why would a Roman emperor, the most powerful man of his time, begin his morning this way? Maybe because he knew something we often forget, that the world doesn't owe us ease. That inner peace isn't found in avoiding difficulty, but in preparing for it. Let me ask you this. How do you begin your day? Do you reach for your phone before you've even breathed fully? Do you scroll through lives you wish you had? Goals you never set? Expectations you forgot were never yours? What if, for one day, you lived like Marcus Aurelius? What if you practiced stillness before the chaos? What if every obstacle became fuel for growth, every annoyance a test of character? What if discipline wasn't punishment, but a form of self-respect? This isn't about romanticizing ancient philosophy. It's about remembering what it means to truly live, deliberately, calmly, and with integrity. Today, I invite you into a different kind of day. A day guided not by impulse, but by intention. A day lived as if your soul was in charge, not your stress, not your phone, not your fear. Ready? Let's begin. Part 1. In the morning. Preparing the inner citadel. The alarm doesn't scream. It hums, softly, just enough to stir you from sleep without jarring you out of it. It's still early. The world hasn't yet begun to pull at you. There are no notifications, no demands, just the quiet weight of the morning. This is your time. You sit up slowly. No rush. The air is cool, still tinged with night. You don't check your phone. You don't scroll. Instead, you reach for something older than your inbox, more grounding than your to-do list. A notebook. A simple journal. You open it. The pages aren't waiting for brilliance, just honesty. You write. Not to impress, but to reflect. Maybe the words don't flow easily. That's fine. You're not here to perform. You're here to return to yourself. You write what you fear, what you hope for, what you know will challenge you today. You remind yourself, there will be difficulty. People will disappoint me. I will disappoint myself. But I am not here to be perfect. I am here to be present. This is not some productivity hack. This is armor for the soul. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself each morning, not to teach others, but to train his own mind, to remember what mattered before the day tried to convince him otherwise. You do the same. After writing, you pause, sit still, breathe, not to empty the mind, but to observe it, like watching clouds drift across the sky. Thoughts come, about yesterday, about work, about what's missing in your life. You don't chase them. You just notice. You remind yourself, these are just thoughts, not truths. Then one simple meditation. Today, I will not be owned by anything outside of me. You say it in your mind, again and again, until the words begin to settle, until they feel like yours. The sun begins to filter in through the window. The world is waking. You move through your morning rituals not as obligations, but as a form of presence. Brushing your teeth becomes an act of care. Drinking water becomes a quiet moment of gratitude. Even the way you dress, simple, intentional, becomes a reminder. You are not trying to impress. You are trying to align. Before you open your door, before the outside world can enter, you set one clear intention: to live today with virtue, with patience, with purpose. You whisper it, not out loud, but inwardly, like a vow only you need to hear. You know what's waiting out there: the chaos, the distractions, the endless pressure to be faster, better, more. But you also know something else now. You've already begun the day ahead of all that. There's a strange kind of power in that. People chase routines, cold showers, biohacks, morning pages, meditation timers. But this, what you've just done, is different. It's not about the technique. It's about the intention. You're not trying to win the morning. You're trying to win yourself back. There's no badge for it. No applause. Just a quiet strength that starts to form inside you, word by word, breath by breath. Before you step out, you look at yourself in the mirror, not to judge, but to witness. You are not perfect. You never will be. But you are here, awake, aware, willing. And that's enough to begin. The world can wait a few more seconds. You take one last deep breath. You remember, the day doesn't define you. How you meet the day does. Then you walk out, not to conquer, but to live. Not to impress, but to express. Not to survive the chaos, but to move through it, calmly, deliberately, like a philosopher in the middle of the storm. The morning is no longer just a routine. It is your foundation, and you have already won. Part 2. Entering the arena of life. You step out the door, and reality begins its quiet ambush. The street is noisy. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Someone else yells on their phone like no one else exists. The email you've been waiting for still hasn't come. You forgot there was a meeting at 9. You didn't forget. No one told you. It doesn't matter. You're behind now. And just like that, your calm begins to crack. This is the part most people don't talk about. The part after the journaling, after the affirmations, after the quiet, controlled bubble of your morning rituals. Because reality doesn't care about your intentions. It shows up raw, messy, imperfect, just like people. You had every plan to be stoic today, but the world didn't get the memo. Someone at work takes credit for something you did. Another drops the ball and it falls into your lap. A client flakes. A partner disappoints. Deadlines shift. The pressure builds. There's an itch to react, to snap, to defend, to retreat. You can feel your body bracing for it. Heart rate up, breathing shallow. That mental spiral starting to pull you in. This is the battlefield. And this is where most people lose the day. Not because the world attacked them, but because they surrendered their peace without even realizing it. But Marcus prepared for this. That's why he wrote those morning reminders. That's why he said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So instead of reacting, you pause. You don't need to respond to that passive-aggressive comment right now. You don't need to prove yourself in that meeting. You don't need to solve everything at once. You breathe. You remember. This isn't about them. This is about you. You start seeing each moment not as an obstacle, but as an invitation. Someone is rude, an invitation to patience. Someone gossips, an invitation to integrity. Someone disappoints you, an invitation to compassion, or at least to boundaries. The Stoics didn't ask for a perfect world. They trained for an imperfect one. And today, so do you. There's a moment where your colleague vents to you about something trivial. For the third time this week, you feel the urge to tune out, or worse, to lash back. But instead, you listen. Not because they deserve it, but because it's an act of strength to hold space for someone, even when you're tired, especially when you're tired. Then there's the email that triggers you. The tone, the assumption, the subtle dig. You want to respond immediately, with all the weight of your frustration behind each word. But you don't. You wait. You write a draft. Then you delete it. Then you write something better, something clearer, calmer, firmer. You don't let their chaos become yours. You are practicing something rare: restraint, composure, choice. It doesn't mean you are passive. It doesn't mean you let people walk over you. It means you choose your response instead of being dragged by your reaction. And that, in a world that's always pulling at your emotions, is radical. You begin to notice how everyone else is rushing, sparkling, performing. And here you are, moving through the same day, but grounded, focused, a little quieter, but a lot more present. It's not about being emotionless. Stoicism isn't suppression, it's clarity. You still feel. You just don't let feeling hijack your actions. Midday rolls in. The pressure hasn't let up. The to-do list is longer than before. But something's different. You're not spiraling. You're not drowning in the noise. You've become a kind of still point in the spinning room. Not because you escaped the chaos, but because you chose to stand still in it. And in that stillness, you start to sense something unexpected. Control. Not over the world, but over yourself. The hardest part of the day isn't the work, or the people, or the pressure. It's remembering that you have the power to choose your posture in the middle of it all. Today, you remember. And that changes everything. Part 3. Watch the soul. Suspend judgment. There's a moment, always, that sneaks in quietly between the rush. Maybe you're waiting for your coffee to brew. Maybe you've just finished a call. Maybe you're walking to your next meeting. Headphones in, but nothing playing. A pocket of silence, a breath between the noise. This is the space where the real work begins. Not the work you are paid for. The inner work. The work of seeing without judging. Feeling without reacting. Noticing without becoming. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." It sounds simple, but it isn't. Because your mind is fast, trained to protect, to defend, to chase, to solve. It reacts in milliseconds. Someone interrupts you and you feel disrespected. A friend forgets something important and your heart tightens with resentment. A project hits a wall and the old voice creeps in. You're not good enough. But what if, just for today, you didn't believe everything your mind told you? What if you could create just one extra breath between stimulus and response? Not to suppress, not to avoid, but to see. You begin noticing the small flare-ups, the quick judgments, that subtle tension in your chest when plans change, the slight defensiveness when someone questions your idea. You catch them not to shame yourself, but to get curious. Where is this coming from? What story am I telling myself right now? You realize how often it's not the world that unsettles you, but your interpretation of it. The Stoics didn't believe in erasing emotion. They believed in observing it, understanding it, and choosing wisely what to do with it. There's wisdom in pausing, in letting emotions arise and pass like clouds. Don't let your reflection on the whole sweep of life crush you. Don't fill your mind with all the bad things that might still happen. Stay focused on the present situation. That's Marcus again. You take this to heart. A mistake happens. You feel the guilt. But instead of spiraling, you ask, what is this emotion asking of me? Am I clinging to an identity that can't be wrong? Someone compliments you and you feel a rush of pride. But you ask, do I need this approval to feel valuable? You're not judging the emotion. You're studying it, noticing the patterns, the ego, the fear, the hunger. And with each observation, you reclaim a little more space between you and it. In that space, something profound happens. You begin to sense that you are not your thoughts. You are not your moods. You are not your stress, your ego, your opinions, or your wounds. You are the one who sees them. And when you see clearly, without being pulled, you begin to move differently. You speak with more care. You react less, respond more. You let go faster. You forgive sooner, not because others deserve it, but because you deserve peace. You begin to master one of the rarest skills in today's world: stillness in motion. This doesn't mean you become passive. It means you become intentional, deliberate, less like a puppet pulled by strings and more like a captain steering through waves. There's a small decision in front of you. Answer the message now or wait. Speak up or stay silent. Push forward or pause. You stop. You listen inward. You ask, is this reaction aligned with who I want to be, or just a habit? And just like that, you begin to choose. You choose your posture. You choose your story. You choose the kind of person you are becoming. Not perfectly, not always, but more and more, moment by moment, thought by thought. And in this space of quiet observation, you start to feel something unexpected. Freedom. Not freedom from problems, but freedom within them. Because the outside world will never fully be under your control. But your mind, that's yours to reclaim, one breath at a time. Part 4. Act with purpose. Release the outcome. You sit down at your desk. Notifications blink. Deadlines loom. There's pressure in the air, like static. Everyone's moving fast. Clicking, typing, posting, chasing. You open your laptop and something familiar starts to creep in. That voice, that hunger, that invisible hand pulling you toward one single question. Will this be good enough? You start working, but not from a place of presence. You're working for the result, for the outcome, for the validation. You're imagining the applause before you've even begun the sentence. And that's when the tension begins. You freeze halfway through a draft. You rewrite the same sentence 5 times. You check your inbox. You refresh your feed. You compare. You scroll. You feel behind. You feel inadequate. You feel like maybe this isn't worth doing at all if it's not going to be perfect. This is the trap. The modern world has conditioned us to believe that value is determined by the result. That if your post doesn't go viral, your thoughts weren't worth sharing. That if your business isn't scaling fast, you're wasting time. That if the outcome isn't impressive, the effort was meaningless. But Marcus Aurelius lived by a different rule. You have only to do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter. He didn't write meditations for an audience. He didn't know we'd be reading his thoughts 2,000 years later. He wrote in the quiet, for himself, as practice, as discipline, as a reminder that the act of doing something with virtue is already enough. What would your work look like if the result didn't own you? What if you weren't driven by praise or fear, but by something steadier, like integrity? You're not a machine. You're not a brand. You're a human being with thoughts, with care, with the ability to show up and contribute, regardless of how the world responds. That's what the Stoics believed. The fruit of your labor is not yours to demand. Only the labor itself is yours to own. You answer the email, even if no one says thank you. You put care into the design, even if the client doesn't notice. You make the call, write the code, craft the story. Not because it guarantees success, but because this is who you are when you're at your best. You begin to realize that chasing results creates a subtle kind of suffering. You're always reaching, always anxious, never enough. But when you shift the focus to the work itself, to showing up fully with discipline and presence, something in for you settles. The paradox is That's when your best work begins to emerge, not from desperation, but from alignment. You write the article without obsessing over shares. You pitch the idea without clinging to its outcome. You speak in the meeting without rehearsing how people will perceive you. You start to fall in love with the processes, the quiet excellence of someone who gives a damn, even when no one's watching. This kind of work is rare because it's quiet, because it doesn't need an audience, because it's enough on its own. It's the artist who paints, even if the gallery says no. It's the coder who builds, even if the app flops. It's the founder who keeps showing up, even when no one's clapping. And it's you today, doing what you said you'd do. Not for applause, not for recognition, but because doing it well is a kind of freedom, a kind of rebellion against the noise. Marcus said, "Don't go expecting Plato's Republic. Be satisfied with even the smallest step forward. And if that brings you even a little, be content with that." So you sit back down. You stop chasing. You start creating. And this time you do the work. Not to be seen, but to be sincere. Not to prove something, but to be something. And that changes everything. Part 5. Midday Recollection. Return to yourself. It's sometime afternoon. Not quite late, but the day has already taken its toll. Your shoulders are tense. Your thoughts are a little scattered. You've answered emails, put out small fires, finished a meeting or two, maybe skipped lunch, or rushed through it without really tasting anything. The momentum is still pulling you. The mind says, keep going. You're not done yet. But something softer inside whispers, pause. So you do. Not for long, just a few quiet minutes. You close your laptop. You put your phone on silent. You step away. Not to escape, but to return. Maybe you walk outside, feel the air on your skin. Maybe you sit by a window and let the light touch your face. You sip some water slowly, not because you are thirsty, but because it's a ritual, a way of coming back into your body. And for the first time since the morning, you're not thinking about what's next. You're simply here. The world doesn't pause with you. The city hums, people rush, cars move. But inside, something loosens. The grip of urgency softens, and in its place comes space. No pressure to perform, no need to be productive, just presence. You look at a tree. It's not trying to be anything, just standing, rooted, alive. You hear the distant sound of someone laughing. You don't analyze it. You just let it drift through you like music. This isn't a break from life. This is life. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "People look for retreats for themselves, in the country, by the sea, in the mountains. But the most restful place a person can find is in their own mind." You realize now what he meant. You don't need to go far. You just need to go inward. And so, you observe your breath, the tension in your jaw, the subtle emotions moving through your chest, maybe joy, maybe fatigue, maybe nothing at all. You watch them like clouds drifting across the sky's eye. No need to name them, no need to fix them. Just being with them is enough. The day isn't over. There is still more to do. But this moment in between, the pause, isn't wasted time. It's where you reset, where you remember who's steering. It's easy to get lost in the momentum, to spend all your energy reacting, solving, pushing forward. But sometimes wisdom looks like stillness, and strength looks like stopping, just long enough to ask, am I living today, or just moving through it? You breathe in, you breathe out, and for a few moments, the noise fades. No inner monologue, no planning, no comparing. Just this: sunlight on your skin, a deep inhale, the silence between two thoughts. And in that silence, there's clarity. You remember that you're not a machine. You're not built for endless output. You're allowed to slow down. You're allowed to feel. You're allowed to be human. So you stand, or maybe you stay seated, but you carry this pause with you, like a still lake inside your chest, like a compass pointing you back to center. The next task can wait a moment longer. You're not falling behind. You're falling into yourself. And that, in the middle of a noisy world, is a kind of victory. Part 6. Nightly Examination. Weigh the Soul. The day winds down. The sky dims slowly, as if the world itself is exhaling. The rush is over, at least for now. Deadlines have been met or missed. Messages have been sent or ignored. You've done what you could, or maybe you wish you had done more. Either way, the sun sets the same. This is the hour of reflection, not judgment, not analysis, just honest witnessing. You sit somewhere quiet. Maybe it's your desk again, maybe the edge of your bed. There's no need to impress anyone now. The world isn't watching. It's just you. And that, strangely, can be the hardest audience. You open your journal, the same one from the morning. But this time, you're not preparing. You're remembering. You ask yourself, how did I live today? Not just what you did, but how you showed up. Where did you act from integrity? Where did you slip? Not to shame yourself, not to perform spiritual bookkeeping, but to build a relationship with yourself. You write, did I live according to what I believe in? Did I treat people with patience? Was I present even when it was hard? Did I protect my peace or give it away too easily? There's no need to write paragraphs. Sometimes one sentence is enough. Sometimes just a word. And when you find moments you are proud of, you pause there. You don't rush past them. You let yourself feel the quiet satisfaction of showing up with honesty, with strength, with care. Then come the harder truths. The parts of the day you'd rather forget. The reaction that was too sharp. The distraction you fell into. The thing you avoided. You write those down too. Not as punishment, but as practice. As Marcus Aurelius did, night after night. Let not your reflections at the end of the day be superficial or half-hearted. You must return to yourself. So you do. You write what hurt. You write what healed. You write what surprised you. You might remember something small. A moment when you paused instead of stopped. When you listened instead of defended. When you let go instead of gripping tighter. And even if it didn't change the world, it changed you, just a little. That's what this practice is. Not perfection, but a slow shaping of character, day by day, decision by decision. And then, you stop writing. You put the pen down. You sit in silence for a moment. You close your eyes. You replay the day. Not like a movie, but like a memory you are sifting through gently. You see yourself moving through it all. The joy, the mistakes, the grace, the mess. And you realize you made it. Not perfectly, but mindfully. That alone is worth honoring. You whisper something, not out loud, but in your mind. Something like, thank you. For another day to try. For another day to learn. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to keep showing up. And now, you set an intention. Not a goal, not a to-do, just a quiet direction. Tomorrow, I will try again. With clarity, with presence, with heart. You let that intention settle. Not forced. Just a gentle seed planted in the soil of your evening. And now, you let go. The emails can wait. The world can spin without you for a few hours. Your worth was never tied to how much you produced, how flawless you performed. It's tied to your willingness to return, to reflect, to realign, to remember. You lie down. The room is quiet. Your mind, a little quieter too. The chaos of the day fades like the last embers of a fire. All that remains is the stillness you've earned, not by doing more, but by noticing more. This is the hidden reward of the Stoic day. Not control, not perfection, but presence. And as you close your eyes, one thought lingers. Not heavy, but warm. Today I lived with intention. Tomorrow, I will begin again. Part 7. South today, the seeds of tomorrow. Tomorrow doesn't begin when the sun rises. It begins now, with the way you close your day, with the thoughts you choose to carry into your sleep, with the intentions you whisper in silence when no one else is listening. Most people think change starts with some big declaration, a grand gesture, a New Year's resolution, a 10-step plan. But the Stoics knew better. Change begins in small, quiet moments, like this one. When you decide to meet your day with awareness. When you reflect not to punish yourself, but to understand yourself. When you end your evening, not with noise or numbness, but with stillness. You've walked through today with intention. You've seen how chaotic the world can be, and how calm you can stay in the middle of it. You've learned to pause, to breathe, to choose, not perfectly, but more consciously than before. That's the real shift, not the absence of chaos, but the presence of you, your trustiest, clearest self. And now, you stand on the edge of tomorrow, not by accident, not drifting, but ready, because every tomorrow is shaped by the way we leave today. You don't need to know exactly what's coming. You don't need to control it. The Stoics never asked for certainty. They asked for clarity, for readiness, for courage. So tonight, instead of worrying, ask yourself one question. What kind of person do I want to be when I wake up? Not what you want to achieve, not what you want to fix, but who you want to be. Patient, grounded, focused, kind. Let that guide you. Let that shape how you rise. Set your clothes out, not to look impressive, but to remind yourself you're stepping into purpose. Set your alarm, not to rush into the day, but to claim it before it claims you. Prepare your space, your tools, your mindset, not out of control, but out of care. And most importantly, prepare your heart. Life will throw things at you tomorrow. Delays, disappointments, distractions. That's not a maybe, it's a given. But your peace isn't about what happens. It's about how you meet what happens. You've practiced that today, and that practice compounds. Day by day, thought by thought, breath by breath. You're not just passing time anymore. You're shaping something. A life, a philosophy, a foundation that doesn't crumble when things get hard. So as this day fades and the next one quietly approaches, hold this truth close. You are not here to chase perfection. You are here to live deliberately. And that begins, not tomorrow morning, but now, right now in this breath, right now in this choice to end your day with awareness, right now in this quiet, powerful reminder. You are the author of your next sunrise. If you've made it here, thank you. Not just for watching, but for staying with yourself, for listening, for pausing, for choosing to look inward in a world that constantly pulls you outward. The truth is, you don't have to move to the mountains or become a philosopher to live with intention. You just have to remember, again and again, that every moment is a chance to return to your values, to your breath, to the kind of person you truly want to be. Marcus Aurelius didn't live a quiet life. He was surrounded by war, power, politics, loss. But he still found stillness. Not outside, but within. And if he could do that in the chaos of an emperor, maybe, just maybe, you can do it in the middle of your own life too. So tonight, or tomorrow, or whenever the world feels heavy, remember this. You have the power to pause, to observe, to act, not react. You are not your impulses. You are not your circumstance. You are the space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you are free. Now I'd love to hear from you. What part of today's reflection spoke to you the most? What small change will you carry into tomorrow? Drop a comment below. I read every one. Let's build a space here that's honest, grounded, and human. If this video gave you something to think about, something to feel, please consider subscribing. Like the video. Share it with someone who might need a moment of stillness too. And if you're ready to go deeper, there's more waiting for you here. More ideas, more questions, more state revolutions. Because this isn't just a video. It's the beginning of something better. I'll see you in the next one. Stay grounded, stay awake, stay true.